Hello, and welcome to Odds on Serie A Matchday 1. Last show to start Serie A in Italy, probably the most open one between the five top leagues in Europe. And of course, we have Leo Bachanian, also short holidays for Leo since we were living together the FIFA Club World Cup, Leo, but I'm sure you are informed more than Chelsea, maybe just ready for the new season for a really open Scudetto fight, I would say. Hello, Leo, how are you?
Hello, Edu. How are you? Yes, I can't say that I missed you because we were together during the Club World Cup, so it's been a short rest for us. But I'm very, very excited to be honest for this season in Serie A. No team have validated their title in the last 6 years, so that's the challenge for Antonio Conte's Napoli. They are the favorite. What a difference a year can make, because last summer we were talking about Inter, and they were in for a quadruple, and we ended up with Napoli winning their fourth Scudetto in their history, and now again they are favorites. But yes, Juventus would like to see them challenging as well. We will see what is going to happen with this Inter under Christian 𝐬𝐭𝐵. Maximiliano Allegri is going to be able to perform better with this Milan. We will see, but very, very exciting to be with you with this Serie A this season again, Edu.
Actually, look at the odds, Leo, before we start the outright market. Napoli favorites 2.7, Inter next 3.75, Juve 6.5, Milan 6.5, Roma 12 with Gasperini. Who knows? Really open. We are going to analyze everything in this show. A lot of new faces, especially on the bench in this area. So guys, stay with us. Let me know in the comments, who are you backing? Are you betting on the outright market? Again, the odds are very good. Trusting Conte's Napoli, trusting Chivus, Inter, perhaps Juventus. I'm not sure. Well, let me know in the comments. Again, press the like, subscribe. Leo, let's go on now with the show. Well, and we unveil this new season in Serie A on Saturday, 6:30, Genoa, Lecce in Marassi. We have Genoa last year. They didn't suffer to finish mid-table. We probably expect kind of the same. This season, they sold important players like the winter of Gudmundsson this summer. But the important thing is that they keep Patrick Vieira. He made an impact last season, and he is going to stay at least one season more for Genoa. Lecce, Leo, I guess we should expect them again to fight against relegation. Last season, they finished only 3 points above Empoli, and they got Eusebio Di Francesco, a manager that I have my doubts about him after so many failing projects, actually. The last one.
Look, Edu, this could be the year for Lecce, and I mean the year for relegation. When I'm saying the year for Lecce, they have been flirting with relegation for a long time. This is them, the last 3 seasons since they were promoted. They avoided the drop by 5 points, finishing 16. Then 2 years ago, they skipped Serie B by 3 points, and last season they secured survival again, as you said, by 3 points, finishing 17th above Monza, Venezia, and Empoli. New manager in Eusebio Di Francesco, who got relegated with Venezia last season. In January, we all remember that Patrick Dorgu was sold to Manchester United for almost 30 million euros. You will think that they will have reinvested that money. That was the biggest sale in the club history. And so far this summer, they added Francesco Camarda, the 17-year-old striker from Milan. Camarda's debut came last season, but he played less than 200 minutes, and he joined to be a backup striker for Nikola Hristovic, Lecce's goal scorer last season. But last night, Hristovic, what happened to him? He was sold to Atalanta for 30 million euros. He scored 9 goals last season. For some, that might not be an amazing tally. However, 9 goals for Lecce last season meant that Hristovic scored 1/3 of the 27 goals that Lecce scored all season. They have, yes, a new face in Riccardo Sottil, the Fiorentina's winger, who arrived on loan. They're betting, Edu, on the promoting teams to do worse than them, in a scenario that could absolutely happen, although I think that Sassuolo can do good things. And then for Genoa, I'm curious to see if Vieira can show a little bit more attacking approach this season. And the aspirations are a little bit bigger, I would say, for this season for Genoa and Patrick Vieira. They signed on loan Valentin Carboni from Inter. He scored in the Club World Cup against the Urawa Red Diamonds. He scored in his debut with Genoa in Coppa Italia. And he's included actually in Argentina's provisional list to face Venezuela and Ecuador. Carboni has a similar left foot to 𝐿𝐿. I think he's a clever signing from Vieira. Genoa, the favorite here for the bookies. The odds are good. The market is clearly under, if those are looking for the goals market, and I would say under 2.5. The odds are now hovering around 1.6. But my take here is 𝑋1, Edu. Genoa to win 2.05.
Look, Leo, the bookies actually, I was checking the odds for relegation and they put Verona in the mix and they put out Sassuolo. They have hopes in Sassuolo to get safe. So Cremonese, Pisa and Verona are the favorites to go down. It would be kind of a surprise, I would say, for 𝐿𝐴S Verona. Well, I'm talking about Sassuolo, back to Serie A only 1 year in Serie B. It was a big surprise seeing them going down. Actually, they had a good squad. They were playing Europe not long time ago. And in the squad, we can still see Domenico Berardi, what a legend, and Pinamonti, so a lot of quality, and Fabio Grosso, another legend of the Azzurra champions, World Cup champions in 2006 in Germany. And now, Leo, this is the pitch where Napoli start defending the championship with Conte on the bench. Let's see how he does in the second season, because I think it could be really well, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes completely bad, having Conte again on the bench and De Laurentiis as a boss. And well, they got themselves, especially De Bruyne, as we all know, but also Lang from PSV, 𝐿𝐿𝐴, but a big absentee is the year after 𝐜𝐭𝐚𝐲.
Yes, but to be honest, they done it without him all season last season. So it's not that I will be saying now that, they won't have 𝐜𝐭𝐚𝐲, what they're going to do. Plus, they're not going to have Romelu Lukaku for the first 3 months as well of the season, Edu. It's interesting to see how the relationship between Conte and De Laurentiis is going to unfold. Second years for Conte and management teams are not usually the best, at least so far by his experience. They clashed a little bit last season, if you remember, before the end of the season, but in the end they managed to keep everything quiet, and Conte is still there. Let's not forget Juventus wanted Conte as a manager this summer, and they couldn't get him. Of course, the name that resonates the most, apart of having Conte still in the bench, is Kevin De Bruyne. That would make them, I believe, the main candidate to win the 𝐵𝗀𝗀. We will probably have again this Napoli-Inter clash, and in that context, the champions, Napoli, they have an advantage. They still have Conte, as I said, and they have Kevin De Bruyne. Let's face it, it's a little bit bizarre in a point that one of the best midfielders in Premier League history will be the teammate of a player that back in England would not tie his shoelaces, but last season was the best midfielder in Serie A, and now he is a Ballon d'Or nominee. I'm talking about, of course, Scott McTominay. A real shame that we won't see that society of De Bruyne Lukaku from the start. Lukaku, anyway, he has a replacement to start the season, although Napoli is looking for a striker. And that replacement, Edu, is Lorenzo Luca, who arrived from Udinese. He's an Italy international. Last season, I mentioned many times that one of the best keepers in Serie A, that was 𝗵𝐿𝐶𝐐 from Torino, and as you mentioned, he arrived. Noah Lang arriving from PSV. It's a good competition on the left wing for David Neres. They added 𝗀𝗶𝐻, who arrived from Bologna. The Dutch defender played 80 games throughout 2 seasons in Emilia-Romagna. He's going to provide a good quality build-up for Conte, as there are only 2 defenders in Serie A, Giovanni Di Lorenzo and Ivan Ndika, that have completed more passes than 𝗀𝗶𝐻 in the last 2 seasons. And then for Sassuolo, Edu, for more than a decade, they have been a very, very entertaining side. If you have to say which teams have been the better to watch in the last 10 years, apart from the top teams, you will agree probably that they were Atalanta and Sassuolo. And they have things in common, these 2 teams. Not only this attacking and that they're entertaining, but they reveal themselves almost each season, because look at the names that Sassuolo enjoyed in the last 10 years. Lorenzo Pellegrini, Francesco Acerbi, Politano, Melich Demiral, Stefano Sensi, Raspadori, Scamacca, Jeremy Boga. They even have great managers that came and left, like Roberto De Cervi. One that's still in the team, you mentioned Domenico Berardi, a true legend. They won the Scudetto in Serie B with 5 games to remaining, 78 goals last season. No one scored more than Sassuolo in Serie B. They kept Laurenti, their goal scorer, who netted 18 times last season, and Fabio Grosso at the bench. But this should be, I wouldn't say, I'm not saying an easy encounter for Napoli, but should be a good first or a good debut for Napoli's Conte. That's why I'm taking that route. Napoli to win, Napoli first team to score. These 2 together, odds of 2.32.
All right, well, problems are at front. Also, Raspadori was sold to Atletico de Madrid. So Napoli, big favorites to win the title. But remember, of course, second season of Antonio Conte, and also they are playing Champions League. So their energy is going to be dragged also by the big competition. Well, the next game is Milan Cremonese. Milan is a big question mark after an awful season last year. They finished 8th, remember, no titles. And when you have trouble, Leo, better call Allegri. In this case, a classic after, remember that he left Juventus winning a trophy with a lot of problems everywhere, but winning trophies. This is what Mas Allegri does. And they got also a strange transfer market with Luka Modric, a young Luka Modric, also Samuel Ricci, Estupinian, Yashari from Bruges. But the big loss is Reinders. We can see how fit he is and what a great player he's going to be under Guardiola. Also, Theo Hernandez left, and Cremonese, one of the favorites to go down. Very humble team from the north, from Cremona. But if you want to be optimistic and you are a Cremonese fan, well, Leo, in this case, you look at the bench and you see Davide Nicola again, and you think, okay, maybe we might get safe.
Well, yes, Davide Nicola, the specialist in miracles when it comes to avoid relegation.
Crotone, remember, he said Crotone once upon a time. And I think he went walking from Crotone, which is in Calabria in the south, to Torino in the north.
Yes, Crotone and then Salernitana. So, of course, he has an amazing history of saving teams, but I think this one is a step too far in his miracles. The last time for Cremonese in Serie A, 2022-2023, and they collected only 27 points all season, winning 5 games. So, yes, I expect them to play Serie B football next season again. And for Milan, last season a complete disaster. We know, finishing 8th, completely missing on European competition. That, as harsh as it is for them, might help Max Allegri to work more on the team during the week, not having to play every 3 days. It worked wonders for Conte last season. However, the reality, I think that Milan squad is not one to fight for the title, but we didn't say Actually, we could have said the same last season. We could have said the same with Napoli at the beginning of last season. We didn't imagine they were going to be fighting for the title. Yes, they lost Gianni Reinders and Theo Hernandez. The Dutch is irreplaceable. We have already seen that in just one Premier League weekend. Luka Modric arriving to fulfill his childhood dream. There is a speculation that Milan can handle Sporting Lisbon 30 million to bring the Danish striker Konrad Harder. And if you haven't heard much about him, it's because he only scored 5 goals in 28 games last season for Sporting. Theo Hernandez, as a left back, he scored 4. On Saturday will be without Rafa Leao for the debut. He picked up an injury against Bari in Coppa Italia, a game in which Milan won 2-0 and Leao scored the opening. There are interesting signings like 𝗀𝗵cie 𝘀𝗵 to run that left side. Samuele Ricci in central midfielder. He's an international for Italy. He was coveted for many teams last season, including City, when they lost Rodri. Then we have Santi Jimenez, who for sure wants to become the main man in attack, and Leao's injuries will give him the chance to start, and Cremonese is the ideal opposition for him to grab early confidence. Very low odds on Milan, as we could have expected, 1.47, safe bet range for them. So I'm combining Milan to win plus goals over 2.5. These two together bring the odds up to 2.25.
Would you bet this season to see Milan in top 4? Top 4.
That's my best guess for them, to be honest. Yes, and that would be a success season, absolutely, for Max Allegri. If he can put them on a Champions League spot, and if they can win, why not the Coppa Italia, a domestic title? That could be a great season for Max Allegri.
Well, the best game, I think, this weekend is Roma-Bologna, because both teams are going to play in Europe next season. Remember, yep. Roma finished 5th with Professor Ranieri, very close to Juventus, and they have a new project under Gasperini, one of the best managers in Italy, with Atalanta, bringing them to win a European trophy. Can he do the same with Roma? Can this Roma be competitive from the beginning? Well, the market has been so-so, I would say. Leo, I'm not very convinced, actually. Even Ferguson, as a number 9 from Brighton, our friend Ronan Murphy is more excited than I am, seeing his fellow Irishman. Yeah. In Roma, Wesley from Flamengo, you know him better. El Ainaoui from Lens, but a lot of important players left. Of course, we knew about Paredes, Tammy Abraham, Zalewski, Shomugorov, although he's not important. And they are 2 favorites, I would say, against a team like Bologna that last season they won the Coppa Italia. They had a good run, even at times in the Champions League, although it was their debut. Last season they finished 9th, and they have still the same manager, Vincenzo Italiano, adding one great player to the Serie A. Let's see how fit he is, Bernardeschi.
Exactly, on loan from the MLS, from Torino, Toronto. I'm sorry, no, not Torino. The challenge, Edu, for Gianpiero Gasperini is a fascinating one, to be honest, after the job he's done for Atalanta. His appointment was made at the advice of Claudio Ranieri himself. Is he going to be able to replicate the playing template he used in Bergamo? Are we going to see Roma marking 1v1 all over the pitch? Will Gasperini's Roma be as entertaining as his Atalanta sides through the years? Well, it's not going to happen in a blink of an eye. Actually, it did not happen yet during preseason. Patience will be needed, and I hope the team and Gasperini could click quickly and together. Things in Atalanta did not improve overnight with him. It got better with the years, but of course the expectations are different if you are the manager of the Giallorossi. To start at the Olimpico is good news. They won 13 of their 19 games, home games last season, with only 4 defeats. Roma under Ranieri was playing with three at the back, which is also a good start for Gasperini, as he also plays with three-man defense. He can improve players like 𝐜𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜, Cristante, Pellegrini, or Mattia Soulé. 𝗪𝗏𝗏 in goal is one of the best and most consistent goalkeepers in Serie A. For sure, he's going to hope Gasperini that Artem Dobic will be his Matteo Retegui. The hype for his Roma is there. They should compete for a top four finish. We'll see. Yes, Ivan Ferguson, you mentioned one of the new faces, Leon Bailey, another one coming from the Premier League as well to help Gasperini on the right wing. Bologna, massive last season, winning the Coppa Italia. At some point, it looked that they could also fight for a top 5 finish, but in the end, the position in the table was 9th, as you said. Vincenzo Italiano, so important players leaving this summer. 𝗀𝗏𝗿𝗀, the winger, and 𝗀𝗵𝐴, the center back. At least young players like Benjamin Dominguez and Santi Castro haven't moved. Lewis Ferguson, the Scottish midfielder and captain, is still in the club. Odegaard, we like for sure to see or to replicate his last season, which was very good as an attacking midfielder. And Federico Bernardeschi. We're going to see what we're going to found out with him in his return to Italy. Roma favorite for the bookies. I agree, but I think we're going to have to wait to see the best from these two teams. That's why my take here for this debut for Gasperini at the Olimpico for Roma is a draw. 3.4 the odds for a draw, and that's my take here. Those looking for the goals market, I would suggest goals under, but my take is a draw at 3.4.
I have doubts, actually. Gasperini working with no pressure in Bergamo. We know how difficult Roma can be, and also the style of game, no, completely different from Ranieri, Mourinho, even De Rossi, much more aggressive, much more defensive, actually, rather than Gasperini. And historically, I would say.
Why you didn't mention 𝗀𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜? It hurts me.
No, 𝗀𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜, I saw him back. I forgot the team. I have it in my notes, and it's like, wow, 𝗀𝐻𝐻 is back. Let's forget about 𝗀𝐻𝐻.
Okay, yes, true. Let's forget because it wasn't a good experience. He's back in Atalanta. Look, they changed Gasperini for 𝗀𝐻𝐻. Anyway, let's go on.
That was one of my comments in the Atalanta game, actually. Well, let's see how it goes. This new project under Gasperini for sure is a big name in Serie A. Next game, Cagliari, Fiorentina. Cagliari last season they finished 5 points above relegation. Now the manager is Fabio Pisacane, only 39 years old. Smash Dogs means his last name, Leo. Pisacane is kind of smash dogs. And Fiorentina playing his favorite competition again, Conference League. Pioli on the bench. Interesting bet on Pioli after winning the Scudetto, remember, some years ago with Milan. And some also interesting signings like Fagioli from Juventus, random ones like Edin Dzeko, and some players like Amrabat leaving the club. Always interesting, this Fiorentina.
Yes, Amrabat, who after the Qatar World Cup, it seemed that he was going to be one of the best defensive midfielders. He went to Manchester United, and from there, look, now he left Fiorentina.
United, it was absolutely shameful, I would say.
Well, it is difficult. It was and still is difficult, to be honest, to perform in Manchester United. Yes, the return of Stefano Pioli for La Viola Edu, I think it's a sentimental appointment in a way. He was there at the club between 2017 and 2019. He represents a loved and respected figure among the fan base and everyone surrounding the club. He's a Serie A winner with Milan, of course. Last job was in Saudi Arabia, in Al Nassr. I guess he wishes La Viola will have the financial strength than Al Nassr. Again, a Conference League for them. Of course, last season they reached the semi-finals and lost with Betis, as with Bologna. Last season under Raffaele Palladino, Fiorentina flirted at some points with Champions League spots. They finished sixth, and the challenge for Pioli is to make that step forward for sure. The best news for him, for Fiorentina and the fans is that they managed to keep �𝐭𝐚𝐲, 19 goals for him in Serie A last season, his personal best by far. You mentioned Edin Dzeko, 14 goals for Fenerbahce in the Turkish Super League last season, but he is 39, so no one can expect him to play everything. In goal, they still have David De Gea, who renewed his contract after a great year. 10 days ago, he returned. Well, we were talking about Manchester United. He returned to Old Trafford for a friendly. I just could not believe that United now have Onana and Bajindir, but not De Gea, especially Bajindir, who in a normal world, he will struggle to play even in League Two. Luca Ranieri, he owns the three-man defense. He's the captain of the team. In midfield, they're going to have, as you mentioned, Fagioli, who could, why not think that he could reinvent himself under Pioli. Gudmundsson, the number 10. If he could be a little bit more regular in his level of displays, he will be in a top team for sure, because he's very good player, or at least one who I like. Gosens on the left wing back role is someone who you could trust. So all in all, Pioli has a squad to compete. And for Cagliari, a fresh start. They promoted a manager from within their own youth ranks in Fabio Pisacane. Last season, they never struggled with relegation, especially at home. They had good games for their fans to enjoy. I remember that 3-3 with Milan. The doubts with Cagliari is that Pisacane has no experience at this level, so we're going to have to wait and see. The odds on Fiorentina are good. 2.36. I could take them, but I'm going to follow the individual market this time. My take here is to see if 𝐿𝐴 can take from where he left last season. 𝐿𝐴 to score or to assist against Cagliari in Sardinia. If any of this happens, he scores or he assists, odds of 2.25.
One of the favorites to be the top scorer of the competition, Lautaro Martinez first, odds 5.5, then 𝐿𝐴 6.5, then Jonathan David 8. So keep an eye, of course, on the Italian 𝐿𝐴, very interesting project, the one with Pioli. Next game is Como Lazio. The bookies don't expect anything from Lazio this season, Leo. I was surprised. They don't see them in the top 4. They don't see them fighting for Europe, although they have back Maurizio Sarri, and I have a lot of respect to Maurizio Sarri. Last season, I would say, was all right for Lazio under Baroni, but it's true that they couldn't meet the goals. They finished 7th. They won't play in Europe this season, so this might be an advantage to focus on Serie A. And for Como, second season in the top flight division, the bookies don't expect them to see them struggling. They think they are going to be a mid-table team again. And they had a busy transfer market. One of the random ones is Álvaro Morata. All the Spanish random players are usually linked to Como and to Cesc Fábregas.
Look, and Fábregas has been one of the stories of the summer in Italy. He stayed in the end. And we will see if he can build from the extraordinary season when they finished 10th last Serie A campaign. They have an ambitious owners, and they have a clear identity. I mean, not many clubs can say the same. We've been talking last season a lot how with Fábregas we have seen a Como that can embrace a modern possession-based style of football. The rise of the club has been meteoric. Look, in 7 seasons they went from Serie D to Serie A. It's of course impressive. There are some who ask if Como can challenge for the title, and the answer is not. The answer is not, of course, but they can dream with Europe, with the Conference League spot. Why not? That could be a good challenge for this side. I mentioned the ambitious owners. Well, they spent so far, Edu, 101 million euros, and we will judge later if that money was well spent or not. I watched Como in the Joan Gamper Trophy match against Barcelona. And I felt a little bit downbeat with 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐻's performance, some naivety at points to play from the back, but 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐻 won't play Barcelona even once in the season, and probably not even Napoli would have much to do against this Barca. I think the many signings so far they have, by the time we are talking, I think they have 9 signings. Is to build a deeper squad because last season they already proved that they could beat big teams in one-off games. They defeated Napoli, Roma, Atalanta. They had good games or played very well against Milan and Juventus. However, competing over the season is a different matter. They kept 𝐻𝐞𝐿, which is also good news for, of course, for 𝐿𝐭𝐵𝐻. He scored 6 and assisted 4 last season, but he needs to be more consistent within games and through the season. He had patches sometimes of 3-4 games in a row in which he wasn't delivering much, then a run of very good 3-4 games and so on. I'm curious to see Martin Baturina, the Croat attacking midfielder, who could potentially build a good society with pass. Up front, the number 9 will be Álvaro Morata or 𝐼𝐨𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜. He scored 8 goals in 15 games last season since arriving from Betis. And for Lazio, yes, they went for a familiar face in Maurizio Sarri. The doubts I have with Sarri, Edu, is that Lazio's squad haven't changed in those 15 months since he left in March 2024. So the challenges he faced on that time are still going to be there because most of the players are the same. And the relations we got to know on that time between Sarri and some of the players wasn't great. So we're going to see now, second time around, how everything it is. But yes, like you said, I have also very high respect for Maurizio Sarri. We're going to see if there is a Sarri ball 2.0 all over again. I feel they still need a striker to help Tati Castellanos. And they still have Pedro, one of the best players last season for Lazio, but he's not getting any younger, and that is true. 𝐭𝐵𝐻 favorite for the bookies here are 2.5, but my take in this 𝐭𝐵𝐻 Lazio at the Lake Edu, both teams to score yes 1.80.
Pedro, probably he's the only survivor from that Spain World Cup champion 2010 after Jesus Navas retired. I cannot think about anyone else rather than Pedro. Not anymore Pedrito, of course, is Mr. Pedro, but he, got the Scudetto from Inter hands last season, so he's still a good player, of course. Next game, Atalanta-Pisa. Let's talk about our friend Ivan Juric. He might have or must have a good agent, Leo, to put him on Atalanta to replace Gasperini. What a project he has in front of himself and playing Champions League. Remember, Atalanta finished 3rd last season. It was another great one for 𝐼𝐴, and on top of that, Retegui left. He went to Arabia, Ruggeri to Atlético de Madrid, but especially the gap left by Retegui is huge. And we have Pisa, another team from Tuscany, another beautiful team. We know the tower, Leo, and we know the manager, Alberto Gilardino, another hero of that World Cup 2006. You remember how he celebrated his goals, playing the violin?
It's true. That was Gilardino. It's true.
Stylish guy.
To be honest, managing Pisa, maybe he's going to be playing the violin soon at home, to be honest, because it's going to be difficult for him. But what have they done to you, Atalanta? You are going to be missed. Thanks for the fun, though. I will start with that message, Edu, because how on earth a team goes from the magical years of Gianpiero Gasperini to Ivan Juric? Dreadful stint in Roma, relegation with Southampton, and now he's going to be managing in the Champions League. It's just incredible. You mentioned, of course, it's not just Gasperini, but Atalanta losing Retegui is huge. They're going to be losing Ademola Lookman as well, either to Inter or to someone else. Ruggeri, it's too much, I think, for Atalanta. Yes, they signed 𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐻 from Lecce. but still it won't be enough, I believe, for them to be at the same heights that we have seen with 𝐿𝐵𝗵𝗀 Gasperini. They tried to go for Rodrigo Muniz, the Brazilian from Fulham, but they actually they couldn't agree on the price. Fulham asking 40 million for Rodrigo Muniz. Nicola Zalewski is a new face arriving from Inter also for almost 20 million euros. And the question mark here is the manager, because the change in style couldn't be more pronounced. Juric, yes, played under Gasperini as a footballer. He was also his assistant during his for a while after retiring. He also worked with Atalanta's director, Tony D'Amico, but that was at Hellas Verona. So there are some connections, yes, but still very difficult to understand. The positive thing for him is that the debut is against the newly promoted Pisa, who have things to explain themselves too, because Filippo Inzaghi helped Pisa return to Serie A for the first time since the early 90s. However, the club decided to part ways with him and to appoint Alberto, the violinist Gilardino, as the new head coach. But even within this context, Atalanta should be able to dispatch Pisa. That's why my take here is Atalanta to win 2-0. Is 2.4. I'm not expecting Atalanta to run riot with this take. Probably 1-0 should be enough. That is what I have in mind. Atalanta to win 2-0, 2.4.
Pour Atalanta, pour la DEA, indeed. Juventus, Parma is the next one. We are also not really excited about Igor Tudor as Juve manager, but, well, he is staying there. They got Jonathan David as the best signing. Going back to PSG. And Parma was a really young team last season. It was exciting to see them, Leo, 5 points above relegation at the end. And they got a manager, Carlos Cuesta, 30 years old only.
Yes, that's an interesting one, Edward. Yes, they lost Christian Chivo to Inter. They replaced him with Carlos Cuesta, youngest manager of Serie A, 30 years. It's crazy because he quit playing football when he was 18. He went to study management, worked as an academy coach in Atletico Madrid, in Juventus. And then when he was 25 years old, from being in the academy at Juventus, he went to Arteta's coaching staff. So for the last 5 years, he was there working alongside Arteta. In London, in North London, they say that he is a mini Arteta. And probably many were pointing that the connections that Arteta has in the game have helped him, Cuesta, to secure the signing with Parma. It's an interesting one. It's an adventurous one from Parma. You mentioned they had a very young team last season, and now they have a very young manager, too. First official game was good for Cuesta and Parma. That was in Coppa Italia. And they won 2-0. Matteo Pellegrino, the Argentinian striker, scored in a brace. Pellegrino arrived in January, and he scored actually a crucial win against Juventus. They will need him to do that again. Parma did well in Turin last season. They took a draw. That was a 2-2, I remember, in a very entertaining game. And for Juve, well, we're going to see this season starting under Igor Tudor. I think the only reason, and I believe we mentioned or we discussed it in the Club World Cup, is Tudor is there because they couldn't land Antonio Conte. That was the aim for Juventus. And in the end, they decided, okay, to stay with Igor Tudor. It wasn't a good Club World Cup for Juventus and for Tudor. Probably the only light was Kenan Yildiz, showing the player he is. As I said with Nico Paz, he needs more consistency, but he's a huge talent. Francisco Conceição also adds unpredictability on the right wing. They have added Jonathan David, one of the best strikers we had in the Champions League last season, and one of the best in Ligue 1 over the last couple of years. But the main problem for Juventus is not in attack. I see it in midfield. Yes, Douglas Luiz is finally being offloaded to Premier League, back to the Premier League. Incredible how disappointing he was his time in Turin after 52 million move from Aston Villa. But Winston McKennie is a good player, but Tudor needs an upgrade there. Manuel Locatelli had offers to leave, but the club wants him to stay, and I don't think he is the player designed to dictate the tempo of Juventus in midfield. The one with present and future is Khéphren Thuram. There are players who underperformed last season, like 𝐻𝐿, who for sure wants to do better, Nico Gonzalez, but he's probably leaving before the end of the transfer market. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 starts every season looking that he's about to leave, but in the end he stayed, and he scored 10 days ago in a friendly against Atalanta in a friendly win 2-1. Juventus last season, Edu, was a team that drew too many games, 16 games. That's too much. They can't afford to repeat something like that again. I mentioned how Parma did very well in Turin last season. They managed for a draw. I'm not saying they're going to go home now with a point, but I can imagine a scenario in which the first half they are able to contain Juventus, and then we're going to see what happens in the second half. So that's why my take here is first half, double chance Parma, 1.80.
Can Juventus fight for the Scudetto, Leo? You see them fighting this season?
Not for the Scudetto. No, not really, Edu. And again, they have Champions League as well to play.
Where was this Juventus also like 5-6 years ago, one of the main candidates to fight for the Champions League, Scudetto winners, and now is absolutely gone. Well, then for you it's a two-horse race, this Scudetto. Before we go with Inter, let's talk about Udinese Verona. Verona, as I mentioned at the beginning, the bookies placed them in relegation spots this season in the relegation mix. Last season they finished 14th, and they got Paolo Zanetti as a manager. Udinese finished 12th last season, so both teams should be in the middle lower part of the standings.
Yeah, so and to be honest, I probably won't be running back from work on Monday to watch this one. Udinese Verona. Last season was a quiet one for Udinese because they did not have to look down from day one. Actually, they were top of the Serie A after Matchday 5, and they finished 12th. Friuli have maintained, yes, a steady presence in Serie A for years, but like the likes of Torino, they have barely mounted a challenge for European qualification. We'll see if this season is going to be different for them. I can't see that at the moment. The squad is almost the same as last season, or perhaps worse, because the best striker, Lorenzo Luca, joined Napoli. The best defender they had, 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀, joined Leeds United in the Premier League. Probably Parma won't sell him, but with Luca out, a similar player that they could be looking at could be Matteo Pellegrino, which I spoke before. Luca scored 12 goals last season, which was almost 30% of all Udinese goals in Serie A. They will need to find someone to chip in that return or similar. Verona, very strange 2024-2025 season. They lost 21 matches. Only bottom of the table Monza lost more, but somehow Verona managed to finish 6 points above the red zone. They start away, which is not bad for a team that won more games on the road than at home last season. That's why I'm taking probably a little bit risky route, but Verona double chance. 1.83.
And the last game, another title contender, as I said at the beginning. Probably this is going to be a two-horse race between Napoli and Inter, playing at home against Torino after losing all the titles in the last weeks last season with Simone Inzaghi. This is a new project with Christian 𝐬𝐿. We saw him already in the Club World Cup, completely unimpressed, but I think this team needed a rest. We saw some signings, Luis Enrique, Sučić, Boni. Well, not great, but same squad, I should say. from the one we saw last season. Again, Leo, they need a reset. I have my questions. If, of course, 𝐻𝐿𝐴 is a better manager than Simone Inzaghi. Even in the Club World Cup, we saw how good Simone Inzaghi is with some trainings with Al-Ahly. What do you expect about this Inter? Being competitive again, reswitch, I guess is a big question mark.
Yes, it's a big question mark, but the expectation before match day one is that I can see Inter competing again for the title against Napoli. If Inter is not there, well, then Juventus will need to step up. You asked me before if I see Juventus fighting for the title. At the moment, I believe Inter is in front of them. But the challenge for Inter and for 𝐬𝐭 is big, Edu, because last season went from the chance of a quadruple to complete disappointment, actually humiliation in the Champions League final, and they say goodbye to Simone Inzaghi. And the reinforcement, yes, they are young, but still not something that I will leave Inter fans on their toes. Two of their center backs in the defensive line are Stefan de Vrij, who is currently 33, and Francesco Acerbi turns 38 next year, and they didn't go for any young center back. Actually, I thought that they would have the eye than Liverpool had, for example, in bringing Giovanni Leoni, the 18 years old from Parma. Why Inter couldn't have that kind of approach? But they did it with Luis Enrique, the ex-Botafogo player who came from Olympique de Marseille. Boni, actually, well, from Parma. He can play on the left wing. He can play centrally as well. Also in midfield, yes, they brought Petar Susic, the 21 years old midfielder, and he showed good things in the Club World Cup, and he was in the starting 11 in the last friendly against Olympiacos. They won 2-0. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 Inter. We will see the mentality of this team to fight for everything again. And for Torino, Edu, the expectations are not big as every season. They usually just there at the middle of the park. The good news is that 𝐿𝐵𝐴 Zapata is back after he broke his ACL last season in October, and actually he got that injury in San Siro and against Inter in a 3-2 defeat. So hopefully we're going to see some minutes of 𝐿𝐵𝐴 Zapata in San Siro next Monday. They now have Marco Baroni, the ex-Lazio manager, in charge. Yes, they lost 𝗻𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐴 in goal. We grow used to see Torino drawing far too many games. But now with Baroni, maybe they're going to take a little bit more attacking approach, or at least that's what his appointment indicates. But still, the favorite here is Inter. I'm taking that route. Inter half-time, full-time, odds of 2.12.
Well, let's see if they are able to reset and to start all over again, Inter, or it's going to be difficult with kind of the same squad as with Simone Inzaghi. Well, this is it for match day one in Serie A. Guys, remember that we have our tipster competitions going on where you can win some cash prizes up to 1,000 euros. And also we have rivals where you can create your own tipster competitions or join some that are already created by our audience. Leo, let's finish your first video of the season with your safe bet.
Milan to win, 1.37.
ACCA?
ACCA Milan to win plus goals over 2.5 in their game with Cremonese. Como Lazio, both teams to score yes, and Napoli to win. These three together, an ACCA of 6.35.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, everyone, for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.